Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us for the second session in our Standard Bank Youth Career Series. Now, my name is Donovan Goliath, and I will be your facilitator for the session today. Now, today we will be speaking about corporate investment banking or wholesale clients. We will be joined by the head of Wholesale Client South Africa, and we will hear from some of the people from the Wholesale Client Stratco, and then a panel discussion with alumni, youth, and the business about the programs themselves. You will also have the opportunity to ask questions during the session. If you look on the sidebar, there is a Q&A tab for you to ask your questions. Please do not put your questions into the chat group. Please use the Q&A panel on the side. We're going to kick things off right away. We are joined by somebody, and I've told him this before, who has the perfect name to be working at a bank. Zaid Moola, Mr. Money, the head of Wholesale Clients South Africa. Now, Zaid will be happy to answer a couple of questions at the end of his presentation. Like I mentioned before, if you do have a question, please do use that Q&A panel on the side, and we'll try and get through as many of those as quick as possible. So without further ado, Mr. himself, Moola, over to you, sir.
Donovan, thank you very much, and a very warm welcome to everybody who's joined us today. I can see we've got quite a few members who've joined us on the chat and already seem to be quite active. So a very good afternoon to all of you. Thanks for taking time out of your precious diaries and joining us. I know you've all got your studies that are going on. It's really great to have you. I think as Donovan gave me that introduction, if only it was true, if it was true that there was money behind the name, I may not actually be here today. So really privileged, though, to be able to present and chat to you guys. I'd like to keep the session as informal as possible, and what I mean by that is I think the question and answers, or questions at least, for each of you are going to be quite important. I'm sure you have many questions. Please feel free to obviously drop them into the chat box, and I'll do my best to address as many, if not all of them, as possible. I know I also come from a background where I was in your seat at some stage, and there are many questions that we all probably have, and we would want to do our best to obviously address that. I think, again, you probably will see wholesale clients that's come up. Very importantly for everybody, you may have heard of corporate investment banking. We have had a name change, and I will talk a little bit through around the reasoning for the name change. But effectively, this will be a presentation just explaining broadly, in simple terms, what does corporate investment banking and wholesale clients actually have to offer. For most of you, you're familiar with banks. There will be different segments within the bank, and I'll be talking today really about the wholesale clients, corporate investment banking side of that. So if I had to start off really by saying, what is corporate investment banking and wholesale clients about? I think it's really all about the customer and our clients. And that's how Standard Bank has chosen to segment itself around clients. At the center of everything we do lies the client. Everything we think about, everything we want to do, develop, innovate is really all with the customer and the end user in mind. So when we talk about that, how do our various different segments actually work? You'll be hearing from some of my peers, my colleagues, around what they do in their different segments, but it's important just to probably understand what that may mean. So from a banking perspective, we'll look at consumer and high net worth individuals. That'll really be individuals who we actually bank in their personal capacity, like yourself, like myself, who open up accounts and want to have activity at Standard Bank. That'll be falling within the consumer and high net worth segment. You'll then have your business clients segment, which are generally more your smaller companies, generally between 250 million to 500 million revenue. That's how we would segment. Again, not limited to that, but generally that's how it would work. And then you've got commercial client segment, which works between turnover of, say, 500 million to 1.2 billion rand of revenue turnover. And that'll be effectively clients that will fall in that segment. And lastly, then wholesaler clients, where you'd have clients who have got in excess of 1.2 to 1.5 billion worth of turnover. Generally, the customers that will fall in our world in wholesale clients will be a lot, the bulk of the clients will be our multinational clients and listed clients on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Of course, when I say multinational, South Africa is the hub of Africa. We have many global multinationals who bank or who obviously are present in South Africa and on the African continent. And yes, they choose Standard Bank to obviously do their banking in most cases. And so we obviously bank a lot of those guys within the segment as well. So in simple terms, it's your larger type of corporate customers that bank with us in wholesale clients. It's important to understand that, because if I said everything that we do and at the center of everything we do lies the customer, it's important to see not only how we structure ourselves, but how and what services and products and services do we want to offer these customers. So generally, we all know people come to banks to obviously have financial services. But there are probably a lot more complicated or complex products and services that are offered in a wholesale client, purely because the nature of some of our customers' businesses are also complex. When I mean complex, not just by the nature of what they do, but a lot of the customers that we bank, because they are larger, they may not also be banking in one jurisdiction like South Africa. They may be banking in many countries on the continent. They may also have presence in other developed countries or other countries outside of the African continent. And so that introduces complexity in terms of how we actually bank them and the needs and wants that they may have. When we look at how we structure ourselves, and I know this is often the question, I would always say that investment banking or corporate investment banking, wholesale clients, has many different windows to it. And sitting in your seat, the real question is not only what happens within a corporate investment bank, but is also which window should I be choosing? Which one's going to be most applicable for me? And also what actually happens behind some of those windows if I had to look at them. So I'll try my best to obviously explain some of them. Again, in the time that we have, it's very difficult to give you in-depth detail around it, but happy obviously to use the question and answer process to try to give any much more detail that people are looking for. Effectively, we basically split some of the areas into our front office, client-facing business units within wholesale clients or corporate investment banking. And then we also have other functions that are enabling functions, or what we refer to as enabling functions, that play a key role in supporting not only the front office business units, or the core business units, but also our customers as well. All right. And it's exceptionally important to understand that no one is more important than the other. We structure ourselves in certain ways because people obviously have different roles and responsibilities. But effectively, if we want to deliver to our customers in a seamless and excellent manner, then we all need to collaborate internally to provide our customers with those solutions and services. So just to run through some of the business units, which are, I guess, the more common ones that you find in different organizations or corporate investment banks, we talk about client coverage first. So client coverage, effectively, if you want to call it, looks at people who are the custodians of our client relationships. These are people who we may come across different terminologies for them, but relationship managers is one. Those are the people that would obviously be engaging with customers on a day-to-day basis, managing the overall relationship that they have with Standard Bank Group. At Standard Bank, we actually call these client coordinators. I can see that the video or the slide has actually gone away. I'm not sure if people can still see that and hear that. But I'll carry on chatting just for everybody's benefit. Unless anyone says they can't hear me, please just let me know. So client coverage effectively are where we'd have the custodians of the client relationships. We have people obviously in that business that on a day-to-day basis will be talking to our customers, engaging to not only understand their business, but more importantly, really to understand their needs. Okay, that's a key element for us, because in order to provide our customers with what they need, we have to understand what their needs are. What are they looking for from us? What are their pain points? And how can we then solution to help and assist them in that regard? We structure ourselves in client coverage across different sectors. That's the way we've chosen to structure ourselves within wholesale client coverage. Within that, we look at sectors like telecoms, media technology, financial institutions group, the consumer sector, the industrial sector, the oil and gas sector, the metals and mining sector, and the power and infrastructure sector. So those are just broad sectors that we've chosen, as well as real estate as an example, which give us sort of a real focus on our customers, where we can obviously identify not just a customer, but broad value chains and solutions within sectors themselves, okay? And we do that not only on a country basis like South Africa, we do that on a global basis, because what it allows you to see is what are the real trends that we're seeing, what are the patterns, what's the innovation, what's the development, and what's the broader needs of that. Even if it may be happening in some of the developed countries, right? Of course, that will also then be able to be used in emerging markets like South Africa as well, and we can then leverage off that. So that gives us a deep sense and understanding of not only a client or a corporate, right, but equally the broader sector. And why that's important is because when we're engaging with our customers, we often will be engaging on a strategic level with CEOs, CFOs, which are the highest level within an organization, equally the chairman of boards, as well as the board of directors. In order to do that, you need to be well-skilled, well-versed, well-knowledge, and well-experienced. But you also need to be top of your game in terms of what's going on in the sector. That way, people obviously want to listen to you and engage with you on a strategic level. In investment banking, which is a term that I know often gets used loosely, for us in investment banking, it's a business unit, okay? And within this business unit, we do many things, or we have many different areas or products and services that are offered. Some of them may be things like corporate finance or mergers and acquisition. So another one would be debt solutions, where we provide long-term debt funding to customers. We'd look at doing things like optimal capital structures, trying to understand that when we look at a balance sheet, and I'm going to try and make it as simple as possible, when we look at a balance sheet of a customer, what is the optimal balance between an equity contribution as well as a debt contribution? And within the same business unit, you'll have providers who can obviously service you and offer you debt. We also have providers or products and services and a team that can offer you equity. The equity capital markets, the debt capital markets, again, are all different segments within investment banking that can assist our customers from a product and an advisory perspective. Okay. Global markets, probably the best way to look at this is to say that there are different asset classes that are consisted or made up within global markets: foreign exchange, interest rates, credit risk, liquidity, equities that obviously most of you would all know and understand, things like the JSE and listed exchanges across Africa and across the world. Global markets looks across different asset classes to offer our clients different products and services within that, like hedging of interest rates, like hedging. So if if you're importing goods from a foreign country, obviously there'll be an FX risk or a currency risk associated with that. You can obviously then use products and services that the global markets business would offer you to hedge yourself or to mitigate the risk that you potentially are taking within that. Again, global markets often has a reputation because of some of the Hollywood movies that have been made. So The Wolf of Wall Street is effectively certain things that you may find or activities that you find from a product and service perspective that obviously take place in global markets. And I'm very careful there. It's the products and services that are probably similar to The Wolf of Wall Street, not some of the other activities that you may see in the movie. But very high-paced environment in global markets, high risk, high stakes. If you look at transactional products and services, this is probably what you look at the day-to-day operating of a company. So literally, how does a company make payments? How does it receive incoming payments to itself or incoming receipts? All of this would form part of the transactional products and services business. It's effectively your basic platform or the backbone of any customer's business, where they need to operate their payments in an account, their current accounts like you and I would have. All of that really sits within the transactional products and services business. Equally, within areas like this, you do day-to-day basic banking, like providing of guarantees and trade facilities, etc., etc. Working capital facilities, because of the day-to-day nature, are also offered off the transactional products and services platform. Risk, really important to understand as a business unit. So all the business units we've just spoken about really offer our customers different products and services as well as solutions, right? On the other side of this, we also need to mitigate then what risks come with that. So for instance, in a very simple example, if we're lending a customer money, of course, we need to understand, can that customer actually pay us that money back, right? And the team that really look at evaluating that, the inherent risks on our transactions is the risk team. We break that into different types of risk. You'll have reputational risk, operational risk, credit risk, as well as market risk. And again, the nature of their role is to work with our business units and our client-facing teams to evaluate the deals and transactions that we are going to conclude, and to ensure that, one, we understand the risks, we've mitigated them, and that we're comfortable as an organization and as a business to take on those risks within our business. Because if you think about it very simply, if you make a loan to customer and they cannot pay you, then of course you're going to make a loss, right? And remember that banks aren't just inventing and printing their own money. We have got depositors who put money in with banks. And so from a regulatory perspective, we've got a responsibility to ensure that we manage that money in the most efficient, effective, but also in a risk and a risk adverse and a safe manner, if you want to call it that. At the same time, we have shareholders who provide us with capital to put at risk in order to give them a return. But how we obviously put that money at risk is really important. And so we have governance, procedures, policies that govern us and guide us as to how we do that, right? We don't just wake up every day and just decide, today is a good day, let's let money out the bank. Tomorrow is a bad day, let's not. We have guidelines to follow that the regulators actually look at to ensure that they are sound and that we are implementing them as we said we would. The support functions or the enabling functions that I mentioned are really different areas that allow us to ensure we can provide the necessary services and products to our customers in a seamless way. Those are areas like operations, who once you hit pay on your mobile app, when you say make a payment to beneficiary, it all happens almost in a virtual world. You hit the button pay, what happens in the background to actually make that money leave your account and go into somebody else's? That all takes place within the operations environment. Great team, great work that the guys actually do. Legal, of course, all the communications we have, all the transactions we conclude will definitely have a legal angle to it. There's documentation often that a transaction is supported by. In a very simple way, you would probably know that when you and I assign a document that says terms and conditions, all of those will effectively come through from our legal team. And very important, they don't just sit in the background. They engage with us, with customers, to ensure that they understand what the customer is doing, and that they can engage with the customer to have a discussion around it. It's not just like a black box in the background where people are just doing things and you get an email in your inbox. There has to be that engagement on a physical or virtual basis, but with a customer. Group internal audit, obviously there to ensure that the policies, the procedures that we said we've got in place, are we adhering to them? We don't have to wait for the regulators to come in and actually examine us, which they do from time to time. We should also, from a code of conduct or a King code of conduct and a best practice perspective, a group internal audit function is absolutely critical to ensure that we are monitoring what we're doing and that we can pick up any errors, fraud, non-adherence to policies, etc., at an early stage. And a key part I'll mention, obviously, with that is the independence of that function is very important. People and culture, our human or otherwise, most companies may have in terminologies like human capital, exceptionally important. Our people and culture teams support us and support our people, right? As much as I may talk about the client and at the center of everything we do lies our customer, there are really two most key pillars in our business are our clients and our people. The two cannot, the two will always coexist. You can't have customers without having a team to service them. You can have a team, but if you have no customers, who are we going to service? So very important that we have that team to actually support us from that perspective. Treasury, the treasury function really manages the liquidity of the bank. If you want to call it in its most simplest form, it's managing the inflows and outflows of a balance sheet or income statement of the bank to ensure that at all times we're meeting our regulatory requirements from a liquidity perspective. A bank always has to have money available. Otherwise, people wouldn't trust us and put their money with us. Finance, obviously the guys who look at not only doing the accounting, I know that becomes a common issue, but not only doing the accounting, but also looking at providing us with financial insights on our numbers. But also they have to balance the books and make sure that the financial aspects of everything we do balance and are there and can be audited. Because again, we're a listed entity and we would have auditors who'd have to come in and provide comfort to shareholders and other stakeholders that everything we're doing is sound and is above board. Technology, IT, I think has become even far more important over the last 18 months. But again, all banks run their systems, or run their products and service off systems. And so the technology aspect becomes exceptionally important, not only for keeping our systems up at all times and making sure that we're always on, but equally ensuring that we're thinking ahead at what the future will require from an innovation perspective. Compliance, again, I said we're regulated, so compliance team there to ensure that we are obviously adhering to what we need to from a regulatory perspective, but also providing us with insights as to latest developments in the market and how and what impact that can have, not only on our business, but equally on our customers' business. And then the marketing team, of course, we need to brand ourselves, just like today, making sure that the Standard Bank brand is out there. What does it mean? What does it stand for? Do our customers see us? How are we going to get more business? Again, we work in a very competitive environment. There are many banks out there. Why should you be using Standard Bank? So marketing plays a significant role in terms of bringing that all together. We've spoken then a little bit about, all the different areas you'd find within corporate investment banking and wholesale clients at Standard Bank. And again, as I said, there's probably not much detail in it. There's so much more we could talk about. But given the time, I think that's really just to give you a bit of a flavor for what exists. Okay. You'll see I've just put in there some of the strategic imperatives we have. So some of the things we focus on, transforming a client experience. Again, I said it's a competitive environment, so why should a customer work with us? We are at all times focused on the customer and the experience that the customer has. Looking at the right-hand side again, it's delivering operational excellence. So making sure that whatever we do, it's not just about the deal or the transaction. It's what experience did our customer have with us in doing that, because that's what will bring them back to us. Driving sustainable value creation. It's not only about providing a platform for customers to make payments and receipts. Most people can do that. In fact, that's where a lot of the disruption will take place. So what we have to do is really ensure, how do we offer our customers more than just that stock standard service? How do we add value to them? And that's why I use the word strategic, is through strategic engagements, we can understand what their priorities are, what their strategy is, what their pain points are, and then how we know better how we can assist them and how we can assist them in creating sustainable value. And then the last strategic pillar we look at from a Standard Bank perspective is growing our people and culture. Again, I said it has to be balanced between our customers and our people. We want to make sure we are the employer of choice. We want to make sure that our people who work for us not just do their job, but they want to work for us, because that will then enable them to give our customers that excellent experience. Okay, we want to grow our people, provide them not just with a job, but with a purpose. Okay, it's not all just about money. It's also very importantly about purpose. Developing in them, investing in them, and ensuring that the culture that's created at Standard Bank is one that they will thrive on and that they will respect. So I think that's probably enough on wholesale clients. The last couple of things just at the bottom there in terms of the phrases that we use that will probably describe us. You need to have a passion for client engagement, because everything I've just said is it's all about our customers. There has to be an obsession with delivering an exceptional client experience. If you don't, people will go to another bank or a competitor. And then, of course, living a culture of courage, confidence, and hunger to win. Again, competition isn't always easy. I think if you've just seen, and I'm sure most of you would have watched the Olympics, every person who participates wants to win. The margin between a winner and first place and last place is often, sometimes depends what the event is, could be a millisecond. Okay, so you need to not only understand your competitors, but also you need to have that hunger and commitment and dedication and passion to want to do this. I probably have made it sound really sexy and exciting. It is a really great business, the wholesale clients business, to be part of. But it also will come with its challenges. It is often high pressure, high stress, those type of things, right? But it's absolutely energetic. It's absolutely worth it. It's cutting edge. When you often look at banking across the globe, often what you find is that the corporate and investment banking or the wholesale client segments are often referred to as the more exciting or more sexy type environments, okay? And that's probably because of everything I've just said. It's also probably to do with areas like global markets, investment banking, some of the movies that have made them, as I said, they don't often always reflect them very accurately. You know, I'm not sure how many of you, I'm probably giving away my age, but things like movies like Wall Street, but probably in your age, with the global financial crisis, you would have seen movies like Collateral Damage. You would have seen movies like Margin Call, all based on the 2008 global financial crisis with Lehman's collapsing. A lot of those are fairly, sometimes very similar to some of the business that we actually do within wholesale clients, of course, in a legitimate way. But it gives you a good idea of the pressure and the high pace of the industry and the segment. If we can please move over to the next slide, Kenneth. Before we go to questions and answers, and this is probably my last 5 minutes before we go to Q&A, I just thought it's worthwhile sharing with you guys how our lives have changed over the last 16 months. Okay, if everything's about the customer, you probably could imagine that we've had many engagements with customers. That's pretty much the bulk of our role, is engaging with customers. And that generally happens on a physical basis, having meetings with customers, really engaging with them on a strategic level, understanding what matters to them. What is their strategy in their business? And the point for us is we want to have that discussion. So one, yes, we understand their business, but we also then understand how we can assist them in attaining those goals. Because if you think about it, in our role, if we can do that, we differentiate ourselves from our competitors, and we also add value to them, right? So that really probably took quite a big change with COVID. And thankfully, COVID didn't just impact South Africa. So it wasn't like we were sitting here in South Africa as an example, and this just affected us. Being a global pandemic, COVID affected the entire world. And so what our customers were going through in South Africa, as an example, there were customers equally going through that on all the different continents. In the same way, how our competitors would be facing off to customers would be impacted in the same way that it would impact us. So if we were not having physical engagement, the benefit for us is neither were our competitors. But what was really interesting is that it was a big challenge, because in doing business in a certain way, and I think we all know, just like we're doing this session, if I was standing up in front of you in a hall or auditorium or a conference center, the engagement, the feel, the energy in the room would be very different. And to replicate that in a virtual platform, even though you can still have an impact, it would never be the same. Of course, we're doing this today, 16, 17 months on from March last year, right? But if we had did it in March last year virtually, I can guarantee you the experience would be very different, even if it was done virtually, because we weren't as used to doing this as we probably are today. One thing I will say is that, we were very quick to react to what had obviously taken place from a level 5 lockdown perspective. It was obviously made easier by all the factors I mentioned, that our customers were impacted, and we could transition to a virtual engaging environment very quickly and very successfully. So as a bank or a standard bank, we've been working from home for the past 16, 17 months. We have been very effective. Most of the banks are providing or publishing their results this week. You all will see, I'm sure you all read the bank's results. And so when you look at that, you'll see that banks have actually really been resilient. They've come back and they've performed. Now, why I mention that is because, of course, as a leader and as an employee at Standard Bank, one of the big things for me last year when lockdown took place was, how are we going to deliver on the goal and achieve the goals that we'd set out? With all my team and our teams working from home, can we still do our jobs, right? And all those things really were concerns. But thankfully, I must say, with support of the broader leadership and the entire business, we really managed to transition in a seamless way. That comes with its downfalls as well. And so a lot of our focus now isn't just about getting the job done. From a people perspective, while careers, development, promotions, attracting the right talent are all absolutely critical, we've also really had to focus very long and hard on ensuring that the wellness, the safety and well-being of our people are of paramount importance. Okay, so we're not looking to put our people at risk. That's why we all continue to work from home. Equally, we're interested in our people's mental well-being. Sitting in a room the entire day, working and talking on a computer like this for 8 to 10 hours has its perils as well. Looking at COVID and the losses that it's come with, and offering each of you condolences to anyone you may have lost in your families, all of those things had a huge impact. A month ago, having the riots and the protests in KZN and Gauteng has an impact on our people. And it's not that, we're human and we're resilient, we'll get through that. But what is important is that when you take the social engagement we now have, because we're all working from home, we probably take for granted that when you were walking into an office, just talking at a coffee machine or talking to a colleague for a brief few minutes actually gave you some relief, some respite, something that actually I feel good about myself. And being locked in our homes obviously takes a lot of that away. I would equally say for myself that after being on a computer like this in Microsoft Teams meetings or Zoom meetings for generally 10 to 12 hours a day, okay, when my phone rings, I'm not that hungry and eager and energetic to answer it because I've just been speaking the whole day and engaging through this, okay? Of course, there are some caveats. So when it's a client, unfortunately, it doesn't matter whether I'm on leave or whether I'm doing whatever. When it's a client, we preference it. And so we obviously have to take those calls. But the point for me is that you've got to be equally, and we're very, very comfortable with understanding, what is the impact on our people around that. So, that's what we've really done as a bank, from or through the pandemic. It's really accelerated, though, some of the new ways of working, which I think is absolutely great. We all needed something to disrupt how we work, how we think. We had gotten very much into a comfort zone. And so it's great because from a technological perspective, I think we all know I may not have to jump on a plane and fly to, take 16 flights a year going overseas. I may still have to do a few of those flights, but I can probably say half or 3/4 of them I may still take, but a quarter or half I can actually do virtually, to have that engagement. I emphasize that because, again, with client engagement or with people engagement, you can never replicate a physical engagement. I can't read the people I'm talking to at the moment. I'm looking at a screen at the moment talking to you. I can't see how people are reacting. And all of those things in doing business become exceptionally important. Imagine if you're negotiating a large transaction. Doing that through Microsoft Teams or a virtual engagement is very different to sitting across a boardroom and negotiating, right? Often it takes away a lot of the emotional impact and a lot of the emotional negotiating power you may have. And so all of those things are exceptionally important. At the same time, I did want to talk about the transition of our name from corporate investment banking to wholesale clients. And I said I want to talk a bit about that. This year, Standard Bank launched a new platform organization thinking or future ready thinking strategy. Okay. We want to be future ready. And what that really means is that we leveraged off the opportunity that COVID gave us to think about how should we as a bank, right, which we were a bank, look in the future. Okay. And one of the key things we thought about is that banking won't be the same forever, right? As I said, there's many, forms of disruption that are already coming through where you've got different entrepreneurs thinking of payment platforms, etc., all coming through. So what we thought about is that what we have this huge database of customers, like I just said, from consumer high net worth, which is just individuals, people out there like yourself, myself, right through to listed corporates and large entities. So every single entity, if you want to call it, every single legal entity, which includes individuals, right, has to bank. We've already got that, okay? But in that database, what we probably haven't really leveraged is we think about our customers on a very singular basis. What do I do for you, right? And then I go to the next one, what do I do for you? But what we probably haven't thought about as much is how can we partner with our clients? How can we put our clients in touch with each other, given the knowledge we have? And obviously, this is within the regulations in terms of papaya and sharing information that we can. But it's really about thinking more to create ourselves rather as a bank, but think of ourselves more of a platform organization where you can come in and see many different windows again. One of those windows would be financial services, okay? And we would think of many others. So a very simple example. When your geyser bursts at home, if you think about it, Standard Bank, not only could we insure you, but we also probably bank hundreds, if not thousands of plumbers out there through our Standard Bank platform, right? we can put you in touch with those. Of course, the better ones, right? And again, it's not us judging that. Because of things like Hello Peter and other social platforms, we can, in a very independent way, tell you these are the better plumbers, where you can go onto that platform and see this is the rating of that plumber, etc. And so we've changed our thinking. Rather than looking at our segmentation in the bank, like corporate investment banking, which is more a name that is akin to products and services, rather segment ourselves according to customers. Okay, so hence I go again: consumer high net worth, business clients, commercial clients, wholesale clients. Those are more the customers that we actually are dealing with, and that's where and why the name came out. And I'd say watch this space, because we don't know it all. Naturally, we're evolving. But that's what we want to be. If you want to think about it differently, similar to an Amazon, okay? We don't just want to sell our own products. We want to be a platform for people to be able to access the platform and access different products and services, not only banking ones. And in Africa, we feel we can really make a big difference on that. The last part I want to say is, why are we talking to you? So you'd see on there, on the right-hand side there, our youth talent acquisition. I probably, just by having no hair on my head, I've probably given away my age by some of the movies I mentioned as well. I've given away my age. One thing I've learned in business that's exceptionally important is that just as we're a corporate and we deal with corporate customers, there are many different generations of experience within a client. And so something so important is that if we want to be this future-ready company, okay, and we said at the center of everything we do is a customer. If we only have people who are in the organization that have 25, 30 years experience, then are we really tapping into the knowledge and experience of what's going to come in the future? Because someone like myself, very honestly, will have an unconscious bias, a shaping towards what has the things I've seen over the last 18 to 20 years, okay, in my career. We really need to bring in people who have come through the new generation, because our customers are doing that. And if our customers are doing that, they're going to have people thinking in a different way to the way I'm thinking. And if I want to achieve my goal, we better make sure that within Standard Bank, we've got the brightest minds out there from the newer generation who think differently to what I do. And I must accept that. Everything I say doesn't mean it's going to be right. Different people think in different ways. People have been equipped with different skills that perhaps I wasn't, or a lot of us at the organization haven't been. And so this youth talent acquisition for us is absolutely critical in making sure that we get not only the best people out there, but also find the right culture matches, right? Because different organizations have different cultures. But we want people who want to really be part of the Standard Bank story, who believe in our vision as a broader group and who want to make a difference. And I said purpose, not all about money, right? Is for me in my role, it's what impact can I also have on the community, my country, and the broader human race at large, right? And COVID has probably taught us that, because through COVID, people have needed assistance, financial assistance, guidance, advice, and banks have obviously been intermediaries and providers of that service. And so again, it's really just being able to reiterate that purpose. I'll probably like to end there. And maybe if we can go to questions and answers, Donovan. Thank you.
Zaid, awesome stuff, brother. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Are you ready for this? We've got a couple of questions that have come through, and I've lined up a few here. I see May has answered a few of the questions that have been coming through. I mean, 29 questions, Zaid. When in your life do you think that you could answer 29 questions just like that?
Let's do our best to take the ones you think, Donovan, are most relevant, bud.
Awesome. Let's go. This is a very good question, and I think something very pertinent and something we don't speak about enough. But Mtombikaise Mangena asks, how do you balance work and family life working in a high-paced environment? I'm assuming this comes along with longer hours.
Thank you, Donovan. That's a great question.
Yeah.
And I think when I was speaking about the mental well-being and wellness of our people, it goes directly to that point. One of the things that, aside from the high-pace environment, etc., one of the things that COVID complicated for us was there were no more boundaries. At first, and I speak for myself, at first, obviously, working from home, I thought, my family are living in my office. After a few weeks, what they had to remind me is actually I'm working in their environment and not the other way. Okay.
Wow.
And a break, I guess when I say lack of boundaries, is clients, because of the emotional aspects of COVID and sometimes desperation that it brought, or panic, clients didn't just think they'll call us between 8 and 5. Okay. I would be having calls with CEOs at 9 o'clock at night, not just because they had a need, but sometimes the need wasn't about business. It was also just engaging, sharing. Zaid, what are you seeing in your business? Zaid, how are you helping people? What are you doing for your staff? And can we share ideas and collaborate? But what I would end with, Donovan, is you have to be very conscious of what you're doing, because in this high-paced environment, you can get carried away, and often what takes the benefit generally is work. And so for me, I try to remain as grounded as possible. I have different people in my life who can nudge me. Obviously, one of them is my spouse, to let me know, and I've got an exceptionally supportive spouse, which sometimes may not make it easy, but just to nudge me, to say, let me know when I'm going too far. Let me know when I'm not spending the time I should be with my kids. Because the only thing I would like to end this question with is that after 18 years at Standard Bank and probably 21 years working, you can never, ever sacrifice the things that mean the most to you. And for me, family means more than anything else. Of course, I need a job and I want to do it. I'm hungry. I'm aspirational. I want to do well at what I do. But don't forget what means the most to you in your life. And I will just end one thing by saying it can actually be. Right? You can actually balance both. Sometimes it may be out, but you can. You've just got to find the right ways and the right balance for yourself as an individual. And from person to person, that'll differ.
Love that so much. I think it's a question that's come out of these things that and a lot of the alumni who obviously started working quickly realized that you need to take time out as well for yourself. Burnout is real. Anxiety gets to you, and it's not good for you, and it's not good for the company either. You don't be dropping the ball on things and having more pressure put on you because you're unable to handle situations because you feel so inundated. So really take time out whenever you need to, and time out could so many things to so many different people. I've heard guys say, I just need to play PlayStation on a Saturday all day, and then on Monday I feel good. Some people say need to run, others need to swim, others read books, others spend time with family. So you really need to find, what your balance is for you, and not try and leverage off somebody else's idea of what work-life balance is, because we're all different,
Absolutely.
Now, another really great question that's coming here from Liam Boers, who says that this isn't really WC related, but more general to Standard Bank. How does the bank deal with transgender individuals, especially in client-facing positions? I guess this speaks to diversity.
So that is a very good question, Donovan. And I think from a culture perspective, the easiest way to answer it is that obviously there are policies, etc., that the organization has first and foremost from a people and culture perspective that will deal with transgender in itself, right? LGBTQ plus diversity, which is around race, gender, and a whole lot of other sorts. The part I'd like to obviously bring back to Liam is, for me, one of the core foundations for us should be values. And why I say that is because how we interact with each other on a day-to-day basis, and I'm first talking within Standard Bank, and I'll bring it then, because I know the question was aimed obviously from a customer perspective. First and foremost, we need to understand what does our organization stand for with that, right? And the word I'd use is respect, okay? So again, may all have different views and beliefs. And again, that's their constitutional right. But one thing within
Yes.
the organization that I think is exceptionally important is that as long as we respect each other on a day-to-day basis, we shouldn't worry about all the other things that come with that. From a customer perspective, that becomes a little bit more challenging because within our organization, it's easy to control, right? Because it's done within the bounds of policies and procedures, employment contracts, etc. When you're engaging with a customer, of course, it potentially could become more challenging. But what I'd like to say is that I think we pride ourselves that on the customers we deal with, there's again that mutual respect. And I don't think that that should ever become an issue. And I think the question as it's aimed is, if that ever did become an issue, of course, there would have to be engagement around that. But the one thing I guess I would say is that, what I've seen in my own time at Standard Bank is that we often want to ensure we bank customers that have similar values and ethos to ourselves, okay? And obviously values is very broad, right? And for instance, if we found that a customer was either being unfair or treated people individually unfair or whatever it might be, then often we have an engagement with that customer to discuss that matter, to ensure that it's resolved amicably, to understand their aspect of where it is. And I will be very transparent that sometimes if we can't find a meeting of minds around that, it can even lead into us saying, look, we're not going to bank, or let's end our relationship between the bank and the customer. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen as often, as we can. But I would assure you that, again, a corporate is a separate legal entity, but it actually is represented by people like me and you. All right. And so very often, of course, you may find an individual within an organization that has, that has done something wrong or is behaving in the wrong ways. That doesn't always mean the entire organization is tainted. All right. But very good question. And I think, again, thankfully, we've had fewer issues or challenges, in fact, none to the best of my knowledge, around some of that.
Very well answered, man. Thank you so much. Josias Mahlangu says, good day. In terms of the scope of risk, do construction graduates participate in terms of assessing the risk of a construction company if it is applying for a payment guarantee from the bank?
So very good question, Josias Mahlangu, if I get that right. I just want to make sure I've got the question right. And so, Jonathan, I'm just reading it myself on there. Do construction graduates participate in terms of assessing the risk of a construction company if it's applying for payment guarantee? Josias, it really does depend. I mean, from a wholesale client's perspective, I'm not sure where construction graduates actually fall in and going. What I'd rather answer it by saying is that if we took on a graduate within wholesale clients, and if you were doing your rotation either in risk, I'll use the easy examples, 3 areas that have come to mind on your question. If you're doing a rotation in either risk, in TPS, transactional product services, or in coverage, and if you were part of the construction segment, which falls within our power and infrastructure segment, and a payment guarantee was being asked for, you very much would be part of that evaluation process. Those are the 3 areas that I just mentioned that would be doing that. And as a graduate or as a team member, I'd prefer to use that word, as a team member within that business, of course, you'd be part of that process. That's how people would learn.
Awesome stuff. Thank you very much. Okay, and then we have Kabongo Lualaba Jimmy, who asks if you could please repeat the role of group internal audit.
Perfect. So group internal audit, and I'm not sure how many accountants or auditors are on or people doing accounting auditing on the line, but in an audit function, effectively you are there to check things, right? In its most simplest way, you're there to check, verify against something often. In this case for us, what group internal audit would do is they are key to the organization because their mandate comes directly from the board. In terms of King Code regulation and best practice, an independent internal audit function should be set up within a corporate environment. By the way, that function at its highest level, so the chief group internal auditor of the bank actually has a direct line and reports to the CEO of the bank. just to, again, one, emphasize their independence, but two, also emphasize the importance of their role. Okay, what they would do is they would go within business units, looking at understanding what's the mandate of a business unit, what's the regulatory requirements that need to be fulfilled within that business unit, and then do monitoring checks, tests, within the business to understand, are we fulfilling that role? Okay, and then they almost rate you to tell you whether you're meeting that or not. And they'll give you guidance and advice as to where you should be doing better, and recommend certain things to management. Donovan, I'm not sure if you think that's been answered, but hopefully it has.
Yes, I definitely think you broke it down. Even I understood what you were talking about, and I'm not even in your industry. That was great. This is another great question as well, and I'm sure something that's been on a lot of people's minds, during this time. And Omigayi Semangena asks, is the remote working transition permanent? If so, how do you tackle the teamwork / human interaction aspect? Because I can imagine that for anybody who's just joining the institution, it's quite tough, because I think part of the culture is meeting people face to face and getting a sense of the energy, versus now you've got screens in front of you and it's very hard to pick up on that energy. Anything that you have to say about that?
Donovan, yes. So, I think one thing I would go back to that I said during my presentation was that COVID's been great because it disrupted the way we thought, the way we did things. If I told anybody that, there's going to be this global pandemic that's going to bring the world to a standstill and change everything we do, people would probably have laughed at us. Okay. In the same way, if I had to tell you, you'll see every organization will be telling its people to work from home, right? You tell me absolutely no ways, right? So to answer the question directly, firstly is I don't think what we're doing is sustainable. Okay. But with every crisis, we must look for the opportunity within it. All right. And so from as early as June last year, key message I would have given my people and culture or human capital team was, before it's over, because we didn't know how long this pandemic would last. Before it's over, let's look at what is working from home. Let's look at what is not working. We've done various surveys, okay, with our people to understand that question, because I can't just answer it. What's working? What doesn't work? What do they need? When we got into, at one stage, what do you call it? Load shedding level 4, stage 4 load shedding. Okay. People were being load shed for 8 hours a day. All right. We didn't think of those things, right? Working from home. Not everybody has backup power, etc. So we had to think about that. What I do think is going to happen though, and we're already thinking about that like many other companies, is what seems pretty consistent across corporates globally is that they most likely would move to what would be called a hybrid type working environment, okay, where people, again, depending on their role, and I think that's very important, depends on your role, okay, but in general sense, people would have a lot more flexibility to potentially do some work, work maybe 1 or 2 days from home, work 3 days at the office, okay? The reason I say that is because that collaboration and physical engagement, not only with clients, by the way, equally with our own teams, right? If we've just got a client who's called us with a problem, yes, I can set up a Teams call to say, let's now brainstorm is the word, okay, and solution for the problem. Doing that virtually is great, but doing it in a physical room, okay, is even better. Just because of how, and forget this, we don't have to talk, it's not just me and you, just how neuroscience works, okay? Neuroscience will tell you that physical engagement is far more impactful than what we are doing here today. Okay, so I think from Standard Bank perspective, we probably would also land in some shape or form of a hybrid type of model where people have got a lot more flexibility. But what I would also say is that it's not yet over. And when I say that, what I mean is that I think that this whole process of how we work in the future, right, is continuously evolving and is a dynamic process. And what COVID has taught us, though, is not to get into our boxes that we're very used to doing, is get in a box, structure it, and close it, right? It's really to be a lot more open-minded and take it almost on a day-to-day, month-to-month, or quarter-to-quarter. And it's not as simple as we think. Everything I've just said, by the way, will probably even require recontracting with our own people that work at the organization today. It's going to also mean how does the workforce evolve? You've got the development of things like the gig economy, where people are saying, look, I'm not interested in having a 20-year career or 18-year career, Zaid, like you at Standard Bank. I just want to come in and get experience for a year or two or do a project. I just engaged with a very well-respected futurist, a strategist who's affiliated with Harvard Business School. And he just mentioned to me that, he does a lot of consulting and strategy work. He's been asked by one of the large South African telcos companies to actually, work a day, a week for them, right? Now, something that we probably wouldn't have ever thought of, but he's employed. He's going to have a contract to work 1 day a week for them, and so all those things that we probably thought weren't possible are evolving. Do I or does Standard Bank have all the answers as to how we're going to react to that? No. But what I would say is we're exceptionally open-minded and want to make sure that obviously we can provide, if you want to be the employer of choice, you've got to be able to provide these avenues and not only, maybe not lead the way, because I think banks are often very conservative just by the nature of what we do. We keep people's money. People want to know that we're not just mavericks, and cowboys doing things, because then they wouldn't feel that we could be trusted, right? So that we are acutely aware of what is going to be evolving as global best standard in practice. And hence, I don't think that's there yet. I think you've seen a few moves from companies like Google, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and others, right, that have come out and made statements. For us, we're thinking very long and hard about it. We'll be very open-minded, and I think we will not go back to what we were doing prior to March 2020. That's one thing I probably know I can say. What does it look like exactly? Not sure, and it'll be continuously developing and evolving.
Zaid, honestly, I could sit and talk to you all day. You are such a brilliant mind. You've handled all of these questions. You're such a pro, man. And I really do wish you all the best. I wish you all the success. And I'm sure everybody who has watched, engaged and watched, this session with you has really learnt a lot. And I think have been inspired rather, by your infectious positive energy. So really can't thank you enough for your time. So I know that you're a busy man. You're juggling a lot as well. And this has been so wonderful and so informative.
Thank you, Donovan. I'll end there. Maybe just a big thanks to yourself for obviously facilitating, and a big thank you to the participants who obviously have joined. My last sort of message to each of you is don't give up, keep going. Make sure you maintain your hunger and energy, and of course, obviously stay safe. And the world is really your oyster. And any opportunity looking for, I obviously would hope and pray we can see you at Standard Bank at some stage. We're really looking forward to partnering with you. But thanks to each of you, and all the best in your further studies and careers and life. Thanks very much, Donovan.
Awesome stuff. Zaid Moola, ladies and gentlemen, really, after all of that, deserves all the moolah in the world. All right, we're going to keep it moving right now. We have an opportunity to hear from some of our wholesale clients, Stratco members. They'll be speaking to us about growth opportunities, continual learning, and competencies in the organization. Here we go. Cue the video. All right, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us here, ladies and gentlemen. We have 4 very smart and very important people that we are going to be chatting here, or to today rather. This is a business segment panel discussion, and with us we have Megan McDonald, we have got Brooks Mparutsa, we've got Bill Blackie, and of course Luvuyo Masinda. Megan, if you don't mind, if you could please introduce yourself, tell us what you do. What is your position here at Standard Bank?
Hello, everybody. My position at Standard Bank is head of client coverage, which is basically the part of the bank that looks after all the client relationships.
Awesome stuff. Mr. Mparutsa, I like that chair that you are sitting on. It looks like that piece is just floating in jail. I was about to say, hey, fancy headwear you've got them, and you are living in the future. Tell us about yourself, sir.
Yes, hi, my name is Brooks Parusa. I'm the Chief Finance and Value Officer for Wholesale Clients. Basically, in a nutshell, I'm the numbers guy. I think that's probably the best way of putting it.
I love
Thank you.
that. Bill Blackie showing us his fancy photo collection there at the back. Hey, we're looking at your whole life there, Bill. Your entire life is right there on display for us. Love it. Tell us about yourself, Bill. What do you do?
Brilliant. Thank you, Donovan, and welcome to everybody. It's fantastic to be speaking to you today. So I'm responsible for the investment banking businesses at Standard Bank. And in a nutshell, what we do is we help people raise large quantities of capital, really to target big projects and big opportunities on the continent.
Great stuff. Difficult job you have there, Bill. We'll get into that a little bit later. And then last but not least, Luvuyo Masinda. Luvuyo, what keeps you up at night and gets you up early in the morning every day? Let's hear what your job is.
Bill Blackie and Megan keeps me awake all the time. So I'm the chief risk officer. I'm the chief risk officer for our wholesale business, and in there the big part is really managing our credit risk, which is originated in the main in Bill Blackie's area.
All right, awesome stuff. Thank you very much for that, guys. So I have a couple of questions I'm going to throw at you, and some of these questions I might ask that all of you answer, or we'll shuffle it a little bit, and in no particular order. Megan, I'm actually just going to start with you on this one. And first question to you is, what word would you say best describes the Standard Bank culture, and why?
Good question, Donovan. I think collaborative would be the word that comes to mind. I think it's a place where people all want the same thing. We all want to do the best and do the best that we can for our clients. And there are many parts of the bank that have to come together to deliver to our clients. It's almost like raising a child. They say it takes a village. I think it takes a whole village in the bank to deliver to clients. And everyone in the bank is very collaborative in terms of bringing their part. And when you add that together, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So the word for me would be collaborative.
Love that. Collaborative, very important word, and something we'll chat about a little bit later, because I've been having a few chats, and sessions with a lot of the grads, with a lot of, the young people. And, we often do these sessions where they have to go into breakaway rooms, and they don't know each other, but you have 20 minutes to solve a problem, and everybody's just got to come together, towards one common goal, elect a spokesperson to come back and feedback on behalf of everybody. And it's just amazing how, in the first session, they're quite all over the place. And once you get to day 3, they're just so smooth with it. They really do understand what needs to happen here. So great one there on collaboration. Brooks, how about you? So what is that word that you would say best describes the Standard Bank culture, and why?
Yeah, thanks, Donovan. I would have to say relationships best describes Standard Bank. And I think it's a segue of what Megan has just said. I think relationships both talk internally and externally. I think relationships with our clients, particularly in the wholesale space, are particularly important. And those relationships really form the basis upon which we engage and get the trust of our clients. That's enabling us to do transactions, help them out. So that relationship is really, I would say, a cornerstone of the culture. But those relationships also form part of what makes the bank internally work. Standard Bank has in excess of 48,000 employees, and it's the ability to maintain, keep, and grow those relationships that makes us successful. So I'd have to say relationships is a big part and the cornerstone of the culture at Standard Bank.
Love that. Bill Blackie, over to you. Would you like me to repeat the question, or do you know what needs to happen?
No, brilliant, Donovan. Thank you. When I think of the Standard Bank brand, actually the word that always comes to mind for me is that of integrity. And when you think of what we do, we take money from people, we take deposits from people, we put them together, and then we find projects and business opportunities, etc., that actually will grow the economy, will grow South Africa and grow Africa more broadly, because we're not only the biggest balance sheet in South Africa, but the biggest balance sheet in Africa as well. And so people have to trust us to put their money with us, but also they have to trust us that we're going to allocate that money to those parts of the economy that are going to grow and give returns to people and get that money back ultimately. And so I always think that the thing that really differentiates Standard Bank is that brand of integrity, that we do what we say we're going to do.
I love that. Last but not least, Luvuyo, what is that one word, sir?
Yeah, I would say pioneering. If you look at the history of the bank, where it started with the diamond rush in South Africa, and where we've been able to open and go into markets in the rest of the continent and even outside. So that's definitely been one of the things that attracted me as someone based in South Africa in choosing a bank and an organization to work in. The last one is diversity. Diversity in people, diversity in markets that we operate in, and diversity in the products that we able to to produce and partner with our clients. I've definitely found it to be quite a diverse, and that brings a lot of opportunities for people who are interested to have different experiences in the bank.
Fantastic. I love all of those: collaborative, relationships, integrity, pioneering, and diversity. Now, with all of those in mind, Luvuyo, I'm actually going to stick with you now on this next question, which is always a difficult question, because you always see somebody just kind of turn to the left or right and then just think about this and go, I've been here so long, I don't even know. But what advice would you give now to your younger self who is trying to land a great job? Essentially, what advice would you give to yourself now? And a lot of the people who are watching this are quite young. They are about to start their journey. What would you say is the one thing that you should have told yourself that you want to tell them now?
I would probably say be open-minded. And by that, I mean, when I reflect, when I started, you join with a very clear, sort of plan in your mind of what a career would look like. And when I reflect back on my career, it doesn't look anything like I thought it would have looked like. And I was fortunate in that there were, I had people who coached me and who sort of encouraged me to be more open-minded. Otherwise, I would have stuck to my guns and be very insistent on what I thought the appropriate career path was for me. And so for me, that probably even more so now, that, careers are not linear as they probably used to be before. Really try to be open-minded and get as much diverse experiences as you can, rather than focusing on climbing the ladder.
Love that. Goes back to that word that you mentioned, diversity. That's exactly it, and in some of the discussions that we've had a lot of grads who have said that, they started off thinking that they are going to be very much focused on IT. Next thing, you are in a completely different department, but you love it. And then you kind of take the skills that you have from IT or whatever that thinking is, with whatever you're working on right now, amalgamate the two, and bam, you've got this whole new thing, that you're working on, which is perfect. Especially because, we are transitioning and becoming a platform-based business. I think we need that kind of diversity right now. I think we're going to require people to have as many touch points as possible. Megan, how about you? What advice would you give now to your younger self?
Yeah, it's a great question, and as you say, probably one we haven't thought about for a number of years. But yeah. I guess I would say find what you're passionate about. Find what gets you up in the morning, and by that I don't mean a particular job or a particular role. It's more about the type of person you want to be. Do you want to make an impact in people's lives? Do you want to do new things? It's the softer things like that, because these careers are tough. They take a lot out of you. And for you to keep that energy and to keep that passion, I think is what sustains you and what ultimately fulfills you at the end of the day. So don't chase the money, don't chase the title. Those things will come, but find what makes you tick, what makes you get up in the morning, and then try and, find a role that allows you to achieve that.
I don't think we speak about that enough, passion. I think we speak a lot about hustle, 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 hustle. And when you say hustle, 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 you think money and wealth and getting all of this stuff. But what's the point of all of that if you aren't excited to wake up early in the morning and get to work and really fulfill a project, and whatever that project is, I think we're all in the business here of changing people's lives and adding as much value as possible. And if you're very clear, on that path and that definition, it's really going to constantly light that fire up inside of you. And on that note, Brooks, I'm going to ask you, what keeps you motivated to deliver?
What keeps me motivated? I would say it is my personal purpose. My personal purpose is to help make Africa work better. And for as long as I'm doing that, I feel like I'm actually motivated. I can get up and do what needs to be done. I think I've been fortunate enough to, with the bank and prior to the bank, actually travel the continent quite a bit and see the opportunity, but also some of the challenges that are upon the continent. And what motivates me is the opportunity that the bank has actually provided myself to be part of the solution. And I think as we talk to young people, the big opportunity here is to be part of the solution for Africa's challenges. And I think, as Bill has mentioned, when we take depositors' money and we invest in either power projects or road projects, infrastructure, shopping malls, that is part of addressing the challenges that we have. And if you see yourself as part of the solution, that is what gets me up in the morning, and that's what keeps me motivated, and that's what keeps me coming back to work, because I really think there's very few organizations and none in the sort of banking and financial services space that you can better be able to do that than Standard Bank. None whatsoever.
Well, how about you, sir? What keeps you motivated to deliver?
Yeah, in the context of the group that we have, you have this unbelievable capacity to continue to learn. Everything changes all the time so quickly. So even jobs that we knew and kind of grew up with have changed fundamentally from what we were exposed to historically. The technologies that we use and we're provided for. I mean, I grew up in an era where I remember two guys having a fight over who was going to take the laptop home that weekend. Now everything's saved in the cloud and is permanently accessible on multiple devices to everybody. And so it's not just learning in the context of technical stuff like banking and accounting, but it's the integrated nature of that. So how do you deliver a service to somebody on a tablet? How do you deliver a service to somebody in a seamless way? You have to learn about new economies, new cultures, new environments in which you work in. And so in the group like we have, you have a never-ending capacity to apply yourself to new opportunities, new thoughts, and new ideas.
Wait, so what you're trying to tell me is that two guys would fight over who's taking the laptop home?
I've been around a while, Donovan.
That's amazing. That's a first. I've never heard that one before. And I guess it's going to lead into my next question. Some of the challenges and accomplishments you experience while working at the bank, apart from fighting over who is taking the laptop home.
Yeah, so the challenge that you face, obviously, in an organization like ours, is actually you're building new stuff. We've done things like write the stock exchange rules for some of the countries that we operate in. So you can't take a model that you've developed somewhere else and just apply it. you're going to build it first. You're going to develop the first securitization models. Megan was part of that world of developing the very first securitizations in South Africa. That process of going into new markets, you go in with this thought of how you're going to tackle the market, having come out of South Africa or Zimbabwe or SADC, and you realize that they've got a totally different set of rules. And best you learn to respect those rules, or else you're going to lose a lot of money quickly. But that also creates the opportunity for learning. That creates the opportunity to look at the world differently, to create a unified Africa. You look at the African Free Trade Agreement that was only signed in December this year. That means that we're going to become a much more cohesive unit as Africa. And we need to learn to operate in an integrated Africa.
Powerful point there. I think very important to mention, especially for the young people who are on this right now, that easy to come up with an amazing solution that works in South Africa, but try and take that to Kenya, Mozambique, where things just operate very, very differently. And I think the challenge then becomes, how do you make something as malleable as possible so that when you do try and move that across to wherever, it's very easy to retrofit whatever the ideals and values and however the systems work there. So it really, you're almost creating a plug and play, model all the time, which is so difficult to do. Megan, how about you? Speak to me about some of the challenges and, of course, the accomplishments that you've experienced while working at the bank.
Yeah, thanks. It's exactly what Bill said. I mean, it's we've done so many things that nobody had done before. And you kind of got to get in a room and say, this is what we want to achieve, but how do we do it? How do we get a whole lot of minds around the table and kind of figure this stuff out? And some of it takes years. It takes 2-3 years to actually put all the building blocks in place. And you've got to speak to regulators. You've got to speak to investors. In some cases, we had to go through Parliament to change laws. When South Africa became the first African country to issue a sukuk, which is a bond for Islamic investors, Sharia compliant instrument. There were only 2 other countries in the world that had done it, not one in Africa. We actually had to go through Parliament to change some of the legislation in South Africa to accommodate that. And then we raised money for the South African government, essentially for all of us in the country, because that money goes into the budget and gets spent on education and healthcare and all of those things. And we raised that money from Middle East investors, and we were dealing with Sharia scholars and the like. And so this is stuff that's had never been done before and involves so many different elements, not only in the private sector, but also in the public sector. And as I say, you can work on this for years, dealing with government ministers, dealing with the investor community, dealing with the banking community. There's so many different facets that go into putting these transactions together. And I remember in the Sharia compliant one, the Minister of Finance was amenable, but the Minister of Water Affairs was not amenable. That set us back a year. We were into the political side of things, which for bankers is not our forte. But just giving you a flavor, I think Lavoya mentioned the diversity, and this is diversity in terms of all the different facets and all the different types of people that you have to work with to make these transactions ultimately come to fruition. And it's very exciting when it does all come together, even if it takes, in some cases, a few years to pull off.
Now, you see, that story is so exciting for me because I think often we've got a very, very basic, simple picture of what a bank does as the man on the street. This massive building over here is full of people who are very smart and are able to manage my money so that I can walk to an ATM, put a card in, pull the card out, and the amount of money I've asked for comes out. It's not a very simplified thing, but when you're telling me that you're having to deal with Parliament and this and that's like, oh, that's interesting. I want to hear more of that, which then, it starts to unpack a lot of, I think it goes all the way back to when we started speaking about this, about how Like Luvuyo was talking about being diverse. You never know what situation you're going to be thrown in. So you really must try and take in as much as possible, whether you're hearing it, seeing it, throwing yourself, be a sponge, essentially, because if you're put in a position like that, you've got to be able to make it work, for you. So, I mean, I know now, I mentioned it earlier on, we are, headed to the future. We're becoming a platform-based business, and we're going to change what people perceive banking to be. So Brooks, what skills then would you say do you believe are required to propel your business into the future?
Thanks, Jonathan. I'm going to use a buzzword and then I'm going to explain it in sort of a very practical term. The buzzword is learning agility. And I'm sure a lot of the people watching this would have heard about that buzzword. But what does it mean? What does it mean for me? That buzzword for me talks to, when I look at it at a personal level, what do? I sell the scars on my back. That's what I do every single day I'm at work. So learning agility actually means that you actually have to put the scars on your back first before you actually are able to sell them. And you actually have to be willing to put the scars on your back. So it really comes down to when you come into any organization, it doesn't matter where you come, you don't have all the answers. But what you actually need is the exposure and the willingness to be able to get part of the way to actually provide the answers. So really for me, the skills that are required is a willingness to learn, a willingness to be exposed, because the scars on your back come from when you're being exposed or when you have been exposed.
Hi there, how
and
you
it
doing?
doesn't necessarily just come about when you're
Good, thank
exposed
you
and you
very
get
much.
it right.
I gather the
It's
both
when
of
you're
you are
exposed
from
and you get it
Wholesale
wrong.
College.
That is sometimes where the biggest learning actually happens, is when you get it wrong and you've actually got a team and a leadership that will say, this is, maybe you should have thought that way, maybe you should have thought that way. And that's where the learning agility comes in. So I think that ability to learn is going to be the skill that is most important, because some of the problems that you will solve in 10, 15, 20 years' time, the problem hasn't been asked yet. And you will need to learn how to solve the problem in 20 years' time. That's what I would say is the biggest skill that's required.
It's a very powerful analogy, that scars on your back. And you brought up a very interesting thing there, which I think it's a fear that a lot of young people have when starting at a brand new institution. I'm sure a lot of you guys went through it as well. You come in there and there's a bit of imposter syndrome that kicks in. You're starting to hear all of these words, these acronyms, these abbreviations, and people are just talking all of this gibberish in front of you. And you go, oh no, I'm in the wrong business here. This is not for me. But everybody goes through that, and eventually you will learn. And, I really love what you're saying about you got to immerse yourself in as much as possible. And really, one of the reasons, well, probably one of the biggest reasons why the bank hires specific people is for the way they think and the way they operate. You don't want to hire the same person over and over and over again. You're never going to grow, going back to Luvuyo's diversity word, you're never going to be able to diversify. So I think the point is to come in and, as cliched as it sounds, as be yourself, bring to the table what you know, what you believe in, what are your values, and then we see how we can retrofit it to what we're trying to accomplish and what we are talking about here. And, having chats with a lot of the young people, they're just like, no, I'm freaking out a little bit because I think they might have made a mistake. Maybe it was another Brooks Mparutsa that they were looking at. But me, I don't know what these people are talking about. But you have to learn, and I think there's a lot of empathy in the bank. Everybody's been through this. People know, they understand. And the best thing that you can do is ask questions. Don't pretend like, when you walk away and you're given a task and it fails, because then somebody else is going to have to pick it up. That's the last thing you want to do. So please do ask as many questions as possible. Throw yourself in and learn as much as well. Megan, back to you. Speak to me about how your business, or how is your business rather evolving to remain relevant and top of mind in this tough economic climate? I mean, this has been a big shift for everybody. What are you doing to stay relevant and top of mind?
Yeah, it's a great question, Donovan. As you say, these are tough and unprecedented times for all of us. I think the key thing for us, whilst there is so much uncertainty going on, whilst there is such a pace of development of new technology and all that combination of the uncertainty plus new technology, all those things that you have to deal with, I think the thing that we are keeping top of mind, and it sounds like a simple thing, but I think it's a very powerful thing, is to remember that in the middle of all of this that's going on around us, our clients are people. They are people first, and they are the corporates, the Nestle, the Unilever, the Apple, the Uber, whatever you want to call it, second. Those are the firms that they represent. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they are people. And it's to be able to continue to connect as people in the midst of all of this technology and uncertainty that's being thrown at us, because it's people who drive companies and corporations forward. And it's about then staying very close to the person who's your contact at your client and understanding, first and foremost, what are they going through personally? What is important to them to achieve? So they may have an ambition to turn their company from, manufacturing in a certain way to embracing new types of technology or embracing remote working. All these things that are driving companies to evolve, I think, much faster than if we hadn't had the pandemic. It's about understanding what challenges they're going through, connecting with them first and foremost as people. You can get to the numbers and the strategy and everything afterwards, but if you've got a great relationship on a human level, all that other stuff comes more naturally. And I think the second thing is, once you've done that and you have that relationship, you can face and co-create the future together. It's not about you bringing all the solution or the client bringing all of the solution. We're all in similar boats, even though we're in different industries. But it's about partnering, and I think it's about co-creating the future together.
Love that. Bill, how about you? How's your business evolving to remain relevant and top of mind? What would you add to that?
So, Donovan, we've obviously had to transform the business and how we deliver that business. So the business of investment banking was very much about long hours in the office, keeping people together, developing product together, developing opportunities together. And certainly for the next generation, they were saying, we're looking for better lives. We're looking for more meaningful lives in which we can get a balance between the time that we spend in the office and the time that we spend with our families and make a difference to the world. I think that's been the most profound change that's come around as a consequence of COVID. Even today, we're doing this interview on Blue Jeans while we're spending time in our homes. We found ways to develop ideas together, to collaborate together, to bring products together, to bring presentations together, to deliver those presentations to the client. For myself, I spent the vast majority of my year traveling between countries, going to see teams and going to see clients. Obviously, in the times of COVID, you can't do that. But what's been remarkable, actually, is we've maintained contact through all the technology that we've got available to us. And so the world, when we come out of investment banking, when we come out of COVID, will be quite different in terms of the expectations of time in the office, the expectation of FaceTime together with your bosses, and the expectation of being present in the same room as clients when you deliver things to them and when you engage with them. And so that's what really we're focusing on. We've had actually a remarkably successful period. The first year was very tough, and we've had a big, very, very strong comeback this year. And it's because we're focusing on that. How can we deliver, notwithstanding the change in the environment?
Excellent stuff. I love that so much. Now, Luvuyo, this next question, and it's something that I think all of us have touched on here, and we've dabbled in this, with a lot of the questions that we've asked. But what skills do you think youth should acquire to make them more attractive to prospective employers?
Yeah, look, I mean, having spent quite a bit of time on this program, both at Standard Bank and at my previous employer, there is no doubt that the students coming out of varsity now are much more smarter than we were, and that should be the least of their concerns. Actually, I think the key skills are what often is referred to as soft skills, actually, which I think are harder. So having humility, because you're going to join this elite program. You're probably in the top 1% of your class in terms of marks. And actually you're going to join a bank and be one of 50,000. And that can be daunting. And it's easy, for you to think there's a persona that you need to show up as. And actually you need to really have humility and just try to learn as much and be, as you mentioned, a sponge. Because you're going to learn a lot of new things. And some of them are going to be overcomplicated because we like to use acronyms to sound smart. But just give yourself time to learn, but you need humility to do that. If you're going to work in a collaborative way, I think you're going to have empathy, especially if you deal with clients. I mean, you have to appreciate that, Bill talked about our business that had a tough time last year. You can imagine we have, hundreds of clients who had varying experiences through last year, and some, many decades old businesses are shutting down or the brink of shutting down. And so the way you engage with people, you really have to show empathy and really understand where they're coming from. And it's not a skill, again, that you're going to learn in any course. And so I really do think how you interact with people, and especially when you come into Standard Bank, given that you're dealing with so many different cultures across the continent and outside of Africa, because we've got offices, in international offices, we're all working on different time zones. And so you're really going to have to understand that you're dealing with people first. And it's actually one of the great things about the banks in terms of its culture. There's a deep respect that everyone has for everyone. We all recognize that we're first humans first, before Brooks is the CFO and I'm the Chief Risk Officer. And we try to get the best out of each other. Have to engage at that level before we think about our role, the roles and the titles that we have. And so, it's surprising, I could have talked about engineering skills, I could have talked about, but those are all things you can learn. And you should, of course, try to learn those, even if your primary course was different. There's so many platforms now where you can go read on things, Coursera, you can go read on many courses, That's actually the easy part. The tough part is how are you going to use those skills and be effective? And those all come down to how you interact and relate to people.
Oh, man, I love that so much. Brooks, anything you want to add to that, sir?
I think the one thing that I can add is we've also got, as leaders, an opportunity to learn. So within finance, we have what we call a reverse mentoring program, where the graduates actually mentor the leadership very differently from the way mentoring normally works. So currently, I'm being mentored by one of our graduates on cryptocurrency, because that graduate actually knows more about cryptocurrencies than I ever will know by reading documents online. So I think the reverse mentoring has really certainly helped me and my team understand the art of the possible from a different vantage point. It's not easy, reverse mentoring, but once you really get into the cadence and the rhythm of it, and you have an open mind, you can actually learn a lot. So I think one of the things that we're doing with graduates is the investment mentoring program, and it's working out fantastically well. So that's the one thing that I would add, is learning cuts both ways. And we are open to also learn from our graduates.
You know what I love about that? It opens up such an interesting window of mutual respect, and allows, I think, graduates then become a little bit more open, where they can really ask. It's almost like a mental open door policy, like, no, come through, let's chat. I want to hear from you. You start to build a different kind of relationship. And like Uluvuyo was saying, you almost start stripping away titles, because if they know you are a CFO, they already put on a persona on how they're going to deal with you, versus going, take the title away. We're just two people here who are interested to learn from one another so we can help move each other forward. Changes the dynamic completely. Man, that's really great. Tell me something. This reverse mentoring thing, is that something that's spread across all departments and all disciplines?
No, I think at the moment, we started about 18 months ago. It was a pilot within sort of the finance team. But I know certain areas within the bank have also been looking at it. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's piloted in many different areas within the bank and within wholesale clients.
Yes, I love that so much. That's actually, you spill directly into my next question about some of the shifts that you're making to enable the youth to work in an innovative or adaptive environment. Megan, I guess picking up from what Brooks was speaking about, what is your department doing to enable the youth to kind of just, slip in and not feel like they've got to go through ranks here and do things like how they've always been done, but really make it as malleable as possible to integrate them?
Yeah, I think we're doing a number of things. Obviously, when people come in, they get, and this is something I wish that I had when I joined the bank, they get the opportunity to work in different departments. So kind of doing a 6-month stint where they go around. It took me about 15 years to learn the bank, all the different parts and who does what. And I think our graduates these days, as I say, I wish it was something I could have done. They get the opportunity almost to do that whistle-stop tour all through the various departments. And it gives you that bird's eye view of everything that the bank does. And it also gives you the opportunity then to decide and say, hey, I like actually being in the markets where the trading's happening, or actually I like being the policeman, so I'm going to join Lavuyo's team in risk. It's all, you get to see different parts of it. So I think we've got that, which is great. We also offer the opportunity to go to different countries. So I'm speaking to you today from London. I've been working for Standard Bank in London for nearly 7 years now, having started my career in Johannesburg. So, and we operate in 20 countries in Africa, and we have 5 locations outside of Africa. So we give that opportunity to spend time in Nigeria or Beijing, and to get that experience, which I think for a young person is also incredibly valuable. And we also get the opportunity. I started out as a lawyer in the bank. Never for 1 minute did I think, I would be running the part of the bank that looks after client relationships. So you get the opportunity constantly to reinvent yourself and to do different things, because the bank is so vast and there's so many different departments, and you get opportunities that you never dreamed of yourself. And I think that, as I said, gives you the opportunity to have multiple careers within one organization.
It's almost like you guys know what my follow-up questions are, because you've basically just hit the nail on the head there with my next question, which is, what growth opportunities are there at Standard Bank? And you've definitely touched on a very, very important one. I think the access to other countries, the access to, just, going and learning and how they operate there. And you might find something super exciting on how that world works. But Bill, how about you? What growth opportunities are there at Standard Bank?
It's so important when you come into a bank like ours to come in with an extremely open mind. We need people who are brilliant at branding. We need people who are brilliant at people. We need brilliant people who are brilliant at statistics, at physics, at mathematics, at accounting. You can keep going. These are very, very IT. These are very complex organizations that require a huge amount of integratedness and interconnectedness. We were joking earlier about how we deliver products to our clients today. Ultimately, it all comes from the cloud. It's all saved in the cloud. It's all delivered on multiple devices to the. And so that means that there's no end of personal learning and growth that you can go through. You can, as Megan has said, you can come into the bank as a lawyer and find yourself moving into a particular direction that actually suits your personality better maybe than your traditional training. Lavuyo joined the bank as an accountant. He's not only been the head of our client business, but is also our chief risk officer. And there's remarkable journeys of growth for individuals and opportunities.
Fantastic. Lavuyo, sir, how about you?
Yeah, so I mean, I think Megan and Bill really touched on it. I'll try to make it more personal for myself, and again, just demonstrating, the diverseness of the bank. My background is I was sort of an average student, but slightly above average cricketer, but not good enough anyway. And so cricket has always been a passion of mine. And given the jobs we have, it becomes really difficult to sometimes give as much as you can in that sense. But just to actually make an example of what's possible in the bank. At the time when we were sponsoring, we were the sponsors of our national cricket team. Cricket development specifically is a great passion of mine. And because we had access to Cricket South Africa, I could go to the marketing team and sponsorship team and work with them and with Cricket South Africa to come up with a developmental program which now exists, even though we've stopped sponsoring Cricket South Africa. And, that again gave me exposure to something that I'm really passionate about, and I could do it, I didn't have to go outside the bank to look for it. And there's many different examples of similar examples of people doing things that they're truly passionate about, which is not always directly linked to the business of the bank. But the bank is so broad; it touches communities. It has many different aspects to it, and you can find those. And so when you come into the bank, really be open-minded. Think as broad as you can. Whatever you think about the bank, some part of the bank probably does it, and you just need to find that, and you'll find incredible personal growth, which is not just technical, but also extremely fulfilling.
Oh, fantastic stuff. Brooks, last but not least, how about you, sir? Growth opportunities at Standard Bank.
I think the growth opportunities really come across from people that understand and have a willingness to serve our clients. And I think the thing on top now that is happening is to serve our clients as they become more digitized, and to understand the clients as they move forward. I'll use an ice hockey analogy here. Is when you're playing ice hockey, the person you're passing to must skate towards the goal. And basically the opportunities that exist for graduates are for people that are willing to skate towards where the puck is being played. And I think that is where the opportunities lie. I don't think from an Africa footprint, the opportunities lie across the continent. I think our fastest growing regions are actually outside South Africa. So it'll be great to actually be able to attract people that are willing to spend some time in Lagos, in Accra, in Maputo, because that is where the growth opportunities are. And we will eventually see Standard Bank being a true Pan-African bank. I think that growth mindset is going to be what is going to underpin people that will be successful in Standard Bank, is to think about the bank across the continent, not just in South Africa. That's where the opportunities lie.
Love it. Guys, thank you so much for an insightful conversation. I'm not even going to say, this wasn't even a Q&A. It was just a wonderful conversation. I got to learn a lot, from all of you guys. I'm sure the people who are going to be watching this have gotten more than they expected. So I really, really do appreciate your time. Keep doing the great work that you guys have been doing, and hopefully, one day a lot of the people watching this will be able to meet you guys in person and ask, a lot more questions that I couldn't have asked right now. But I really, really do appreciate the excellent insights and, of course, your time. And good luck for the future. Megan McDonald, Brooks Mparutsa, Bill Blackie, and of course, Luvuyo Masinda. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donovan. Sure.
Take care. Bye.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff there. Oh man, I love chatting to very smart people. Challenge me and challenge everything I think I know. And speaking of challenging, we've come from one informative session from those business leaders to another informative session, this time with our wholesale clients, business and alumni, graduates and learners. So without further ado, I want to jump straight into it and welcome Mosley Kayamuleseri Mpumi Makubu, Demisha Pillay, Musi Lidovo Aviwe Luwaga, and Nicola Johnston. Are you guys here?
I am.
Ah, I see Nicola.
Hey guys.
Hello everyone.
How's it going,
Right.
everyone?
Oh, there we go. There they all are.
Hi everyone. Hello everyone.
How you doing?
Hi.
Good stuff.
Good.
Just waiting on. I'm just making sure that everybody is online here. Is that all of us? Are we still coming in? All right.
Everyone.
I think. Making sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Who are we missing here? 1, 2, 3. Yes, that is everybody. I think we can get cracking with it. Guys, first of all, thank you so much for your time. I know that you're very busy people. Mostly, I do understand that that beard has a session at 3 o'clock that needs to be pampered a little bit later. So we are not going to take too much of your time. And I know that you're very strict with your regime. So we will get on with it. What I'd like you guys to do is to please introduce yourself and tell us what your role is. Aviwe, we will start with you.
My name is Aviwe Luwaga. I am currently the business manager for Global Markets Operations, and I was part of the Operations Learnership Program.
Fantastic stuff. Demisha, you got dressed up for this. Honestly, you did. I can tell. Let me tell us about you, Demisha. What division are you in, and what is your role?
Hey, good afternoon, Donovan, and to everyone on this call. I am actually a CIB finance ex-graduate. I've recently just come out of my grad rotation for about almost 9 months now. So I've assumed an analyst role in the product control division for global markets. I'm currently on the FX.
I interrupted you there. I'm sorry about that. Thank you so much, Demisha. Mpumi, how about you?
Afternoon, Donovan, and everybody on the line. My name is Mpumi Makubu. I head up the Global Markets Digital Solutions team, and I was on the 2012 Global Markets Technology Program.
Fantastic stuff. Welcome, Mpumi. Musi, what about you, ma'am? You know what it looks like? That setting that you are at right now, it looks like you're at a spa or whatever. Like you've just gone for a treatment. Like, you've got those
I
vibes, yeah?
wish.
Am I wrong?
I'm open to receiving, but yes, I'm at home. So hi everyone. My name is Musi, and I'm a client analyst in the mining and metal sector in client coverage. And yeah, I've been on a few Standard Bank programs in the past. So firstly, the internship that happened during my winter break during varsity in 2017. And then I joined the client coverage graduate program in 2018.
Awesome. Welcome. Brother, I called you Mosley, and I'm sure that's wrong completely. You tell me how to pronounce your name.
Donovan, you're absolutely correct. It is Mosley. And I was more impressed.
Mosley.
I was more impressed by the fact that you got my surname correct.
Come on now. You see, that was nothing. I was like Mosley. It could be many different things. But brother, speak to me about your role.
Sure. So welcome to everyone on the call, and thanks for joining us. My name is Mosley Kiamunesire. I joined the bank back in 2012 on the investment banking graduate program, and I'm currently working in the corporate financing solutions team within the investment banking division.
Awesome stuff. And then last but not least, Nicola, if you can do a quick roundup of who you are and what your role is, please.
Guys, I'm the one that's typing madly every time you post a question in the Q&A, along with Meg. I'm Nicola Johnston. I am part of the Youth Development and Employment team. I'm specifically looking after the wholesale client segment.
Great stuff. All right. So I'm sure you guys have been briefed on who is actually online right now. These are a lot of young people who are really hoping to get into the bank. So the questions that I am going to ask you guys, just be cognizant of who we're speaking to. These are people, I mean, you've been in this position not that long ago, so you can relate to a lot of the questions that I am going to be throwing at guys. So first question, and I'll start with you everywhere, is what opportunities are there for employees to gain more experience in the organization?
Thanks, Donovan. So I think just listening and just looking at the panel list that we have online right now, you can see that we have quite a lot of opportunities from different areas, different business units within the organization. And also just to add to that is that in terms of how how these opportunities are presented, we're always looking for people who are coming from different areas, different backgrounds, and also just in terms of qualifications. I think traditionally the bank was seen as looking for people who specialized in finance or people who followed a very finance or accounting perspective. But if you just look around the table, you can see that this has changed. We are now, we have people who are involved from all aspects, from all studies, from all fields, and that then opens up opportunities and creates a space for people from different backgrounds to then be a part of the bank.
Great stuff. Demisha, anything that you want to add to that?
I think we're actually hit it on the head. Just in terms of skills and you know, when you come into the bank, the interview process is so rigorous that once you're in, they're absolutely certain that you have the hard skills. So from there on, it's just about, you know, expanding on that and just empowering yourself, whether it be through online courses or, you know, doing extra certifications that you need for a role that you want to get into within the bank. It's really on you, and all of those resources are so readily available because Standard Bank provides such a vast spectrum of platforms on which you're able to access to empower yourself and gain more knowledge. So, yeah.
Great stuff. Mpumi, I see you shaking your head there. Are you agreeing, or is there something where you're going, I hear you, but...
No, I completely agree with Demisha. I think, you know, both her and Avio have hit the nail on the head.
Great stuff. All right. We seem to have general consensus here on, you know, what opportunities there are at the bank. Now, how does the Standard Bank culture impact you in your work? Musi, I'll throw this one to you now.
Hopefully you can hear me now. So
yes.
I feel that, okay, awesome. So I feel that the Standard Bank culture is largely influenced by its purpose, which is very clear and simple, driving Africa's growth. And I guess there's just a collective understanding that that's what we're here to do. And for me, just knowing that makes me feel motivated to push and really stretch myself in everything that I do. So no task is too small. And even when things do get a little complex and challenging, there's usually a line of people that are ready and willing to help. And I guess there's just something about feeling seen and supported that really drives me to do my best and make sure that I deliver.
Oh, fantastic stuff. I love that. What a great answer. Mosley, how about you, sir? How does the Standard Bank culture impact you in your work?
So I think, the one very important aspect that Standard Bank has is the collaborative nature that the bank has. So, we're the largest lender on the African continent, and we closely collaborate with a lot of our colleagues across the continent. So what we find is, especially for graduates coming into the business, the graduate program has been running for a number of years, and we're able to really, teach people and harness people's skills. And there are lots of different, experts within the business and professionals and senior members within the bank that are able to help people and help them with the collaboration and help them grow their skill set. So I think that's one aspect that really helps influence, my experience of the culture in the bank.
Great. And then, Nicola, you've obviously been at the bank a little longer than all of these amazing people on here. Did you
just say I was old?
You see, I'm very smart in the way I say things. You say that you are old, so that you've been there a little longer. Clever. It was my angle.
Okay. I'll let you have that one.
Do you echo the sentiments of Mosley? Or, you've obviously experienced culture changes and shifts over time, for the duration of your stay at Standard Bank. What would you say your experience is?
I think for me, having worked at different organizations, I've only been at the bank for 8 years. But I must say, not that long. But I must say, joining the bank was quite different to what I expected. I had a perception of what a corporate would be. And Standard Bank is not that. What you realize almost immediately is that you are working with people. People are there to help you, to have your back, to assist you when you need it. Everyone is ready to put their hands up and make something happen. And I think when, as Musi said, we really do get behind our purpose. We are all there to drive Africa's growth, and everything we do every day enables that vision. So I think from a vision perspective, we're all able to align to what we're trying to achieve. But from a values perspective, in very few companies have I ever worked in an organization where people see you as people. They see you as a human, they see you with a life, and that understanding of you as a person really plays a big role, especially when you're having a bad day. We're all good when we're strong and we're delivering. When you have a bad day, to have those people around you to support you, I think is really what keeps us motivated.
Love that. What a great answer. Now, the next question I think is very relevant and something that if you just scroll down the Q&A section over here, you'll see different variations of this next question. And Demisha, I'll throw this one to you first because I'm pretty sure all of you will have a different way of answering this. But what are the opportunities for learning in the organization? Because you touched on this just a little bit.
Yeah. So let me just start off the back of the previous session, where Brooks actually touched on the reverse mentoring program. So that program was actually implemented in my year as a graduate. It was actually part of our graduate project that we were tasked with, and it was an idea that the graduates came up with. So within CIB Finance, that was actually taken further, and it was such an amazing platform to just have the graduates actually give their perspective on how they see corporate and how they see the world changing. In terms of learning and development, it was a two-way kind of learning experience. And that in and of itself plays into the culture of Standard Bank, and the culture is a learning culture. Learning